Hello, everyone. I mean, that is incredible. Such an amazing episode. I've got so many questions to ask about it. How did they get Anthony Hopkins? Is that the most expensive sitcom episode of all time? Is that actually Danny underneath the makeup? Or did he get a prop Danny? Is that the first ever episode of a sitcom to have two Oscar winners in it? I don't know, but we will, I'm sure, get all the answers soon. Please welcome the cast and creators of Mythic Quest. I hope they're not going to pop up magically. Oh, look.
Magic.
Hey!
So excited to see you. And this is so funny because I have no experience of anyone except Danny as human beings. So I assume you're all exactly the characters that you're playing. So Jesse, you're horrid. No, I mean, I'm sure your mum loves you. Look, I'll do a quick round. Ashley, do you know if Rob actually knows how to pronounce the word Ian, or you've just all been too frightened to tell him that he's got it wrong for the whole episode?
You know, I've never actually heard him say the name Ian, now that you mention it. So
I mean, that is the name of the character and it's pronounced Ian, isn't it? But
you know, it's a choice of the pretension behind the character, or maybe Rob is too embarrassed to admit that he doesn't know how to say the name.
I think it's the pretension thing. Megan, what's the name of your dog?
This?
Yeah.
Her name is Hilda, and she's very silly.
Oh, she's lovely. Megan has said that she's going to mute herself because the dog's a noisy dog.
Yeah, she can't breathe good, but it makes her face cute, so I love her anyway.
I'm breathless with admiration for the show. Murray, here's a question for you. Do you wish you were English? Because if you were English, you would be Sir F. Murray Abraham by now. You'd actually be a knight, instead of which you're just a commoner.
Would you call me Sir F?
I might, yeah. I think you should. If I were you, I'd get an extra passport. That's just my advice. Charlotte, you're actually in Australia, aren't you?
I am. I'm currently in hotel quarantine in Australia, actually.
And which town are you from?
House.
Where are you? Because all my family are Australian. So, do you know them? Do you know Rosie?
Probably, yeah. What are their names? I bet I live on the same street.
It's a tiny country. My grandmother was called Shirley Wagg, and my niece.
Oh yeah. No, we go to coffee with each other every week.
My niece has got this wonderful name. My niece is called Rosie Rainbow.
That's an amazing name. Is your niece Filipina? That's a very Filipina name.
Imani, do you know anything about programming computers, or are you just totally faking it from beginning to end?
The best faker you know. Yes. I know nothing.
Okay, it's all acting. And finally, here's the big one. Danny, do you remember the last time we met, and would you like to tell everyone a little bit about it?
I do. In terms of odd moments in my life, definitely top 5. I got a call from my agent saying that Richard Curtis would like you to do a sketch with Rob Hubel and Bill and Melinda Gates. So I said, absolutely. Yes, I'm doing this. And so we flew to Seattle, and I think we had 20 minutes with them. We had like 1 or 2 chances to do this. They had an incredibly busy schedule. And I think the whole premise was that they were trying to read off a teleprompter while Rob and I kept interrupting them. And I was given a comb, and my job was to comb Melinda Gates' hair.
And it was just so bizarre. So we flew to Seattle in order to be incredibly offensive to the 2 richest people in the world, and then we flew home. But as we were just saying, our relationships lasted longer than theirs. So in some ways, it was okay, look, I'm sure you've got a lot of viewers who love games. Can I just whip round you what each one of you, and I'm very interested in your answer, Mary. What is your favorite video game to play endlessly?
I must tell you, it's pinball machines. I refuse.
Oh,
no, that's it.
Megan, what's your favorite?
I like all the Zelda games, but specifically Ocarina of Time. I always love that game.
Nice.
Classic.
Charlotte, yours?
Ashley got me into Animal Crossing last year, and it took up many, many hours of my time.
Yeah. Well, you know, actors often have space to fill. Ashley, what's your favorite?
My favorite is a game called Mass Effect 2.
Oh, 2. It's like Godfather 2, better than 1.
Are you in that game, Ashley?
I'm not.
Oh, surprise.
Jesse, what's your favorite?
It's a tie between Horizon Zero Dawn and Tetris.
Wow, you guys have really done your research. I know Tetris. Danny?
I'm also going to go with the tie between Super Tech Mobile, and Breath of the Wild.
Ooh, Breath of the Wild's a good one.
And Imani, what about you?
I'm also gonna go with a tie, and I'm gonna say between Tekken and The Sims.
Wow. I mean, I've got a feeling that bit is probably the people who are watching's favorite section of all this. My son's favorite, I think, was Skyrim before I disconnected the TV set. Okay. He had exams to take. Megan, I'm just going to start with you, as it were, from the beginning, and just say, you know, how did it get started? It's a kind of extraordinary idea for a show, and the whole texture of it is so fab. How did it actually get going in the first place?
Well, Ubisoft, which is a huge games producer, they approached Rob. They were fans of It's Always Sunny, and they came to him and like lots of people, they said, hey, we think our workplace would be a funny place to set a workplace comedy. It just turns out that they were right. They basically invited him up to the studio, and he walked around. He met all the various like personality types and saw the ways that there are these really big egos, you know, trying to come together and collaborate to make this singular vision, and it causes lots of conflict and comedy, and all those things are great for a sitcom. So he decided to develop the show with Charlie Day. And they brought me on because I'd started working on Sunny, and David Hornsby as well. And then we met all these fine folks, and somehow we have a show.
I mean, I don't want to pick on Jesse, but is there someone that evil in Ubisoft? Is there someone proudly saying, that's me, that's me?
Yeah, there's a Joe in every office, and if you don't think there is a Joe in your office, you're the Joe. That's how it works.
Well, look, the theme of this kind of event is about the power of positivity. And maybe I can ask you, Ashley. I did notice these two kind of amazing specials, the quarantine one and the Everlight one, do seem to me to have tried to sort of, at a moment when people are gloomy, have extracted positivity from that situation. The quarantine one so sort of romantic and optimistic, and this one, good wins over evil. Was that a kind of deliberate choice? Here we are, everyone's unhappy, we'll use the show to make people believe.
So the interesting thing about about Everlight in particular was that it actually wasn't conceived originally as a special episode. It was just part of our season. I think it was originally supposed to be like the 8th episode or something. And it was a fun, you know, very much the same context, which is it's a fun party. There's LARP involved, but it was not as thematically rich, I would say, as it became. But the quarantine episode came out of Rob, Megan, and David wanting to get everyone back to work because our set had been shut down. We were supposed to film season 2, and then COVID hit and we stopped production. But also, I think the drive behind that was just to make something that was actually quite honest to the moment. Poppy's storyline, and that in particular, is, I think, very reflective of how a lot of people felt. I know Megan, that was a big part of her experience, having, you know, being so ready to go back to work and then to have it all just stop on a dime.
That's when she bought the dog.
That's when she bought the dog. the
corn
sweet
dog.
pumpkins.
Yeah.
How can you be sad when you have that to look
A
at?
little
Come on.
fluff. So, the goal was not just to, I think, try to make something that can help people through this difficult time, but also to make something that feels real to the experience that people are having and to speak to it. Because I can, for myself during quarantine, it was really, really difficult, especially in the early months. And I think there was a lot of feeling of like, am I the only person going through this? And I think what that episode accomplished really beautifully was, you're not. There's a lot of people going through the experience that you're going through. And, after quarantine, it just seemed like going into season 2, it wouldn't make any sense to just jump back into the office without addressing the pandemic or any of the plot lines that had happened in the quarantine episode. And so Rob, Megan, and David had the idea to revamp Everlight and make it something that transitions us back into season 2 and sort of functions. Oh, hello, my cat. Functions as here's this one showing off.
A quarantine cat.
Yes.
That's almost exactly the same as Danny at the end of Everlight. It's
It was the inspiration, actually.
Yeah. Well, look,
yeah,
I thought it was a beautiful episode, and I'm convinced on the whole that comedy tells more truth than than tragedy often does. Can I just ask a question of all the sort of women on the show? When I was talking to my daughter about this, she said, who's watched every episode, she said, it's an incredibly important show. She mentioned something called Gamergate, which I don't know much about. And she said, this is a world in which, often women are represented as there to be, either assaulted or killed and to wear push-up bras and everything. I mean, were you very aware of trying to sort of shift the position of women in the view of people who are watching games and in that business and everything like that? Was that something you were aware of? Charlotte,
I was
because you sort of answer away.
Charlotte, do you want to take that?
Me. Well, I guess what I'll say is when I came onto the show, I'm ashamed to admit that Gamergate was probably like the biggest thing that I knew about the gaming industry. And so one of the kind of fun parts of getting to delve into this world was learning that was honestly like a terrible thing that happened in the community. But the community itself, the gaming community, is wide and varied and diverse. And I think in terms of people who are gamers, I think a lot of people are sad that is the thing that sort of tends to represent the community as a whole, because I don't think that it's accurate. But I think on top of that, we didn't, and maybe Megan can speak to this, but I guess we didn't want to sugarcoat the fact that in terms of the development of games, it is a very male-dominated industry. And so we wanted to have the cast be diverse, I suppose, but the stories to still reflect the struggles that women in that industry and especially women of color are facing.
So Charlotte's character, for instance, is like at the top of her field, but she's treated in the show as an anomaly, as a special case. And most of the women that we represent are at the lower levels, just entering the industry. They're also much younger, which is representative of the sort of gender disparity that's happening, where there are lots of women flooding into these development fields, but often they are younger. And I'm so sorry for my dog. She can't help it. She can't help it. The severity of, but like this, it's always nice to, I think, talk about these themes with like a bit of levity attached to it, because I think it's sometimes like, sugar helps the medicine go down, kind of making jokes about things, making light of them, not light of the issues, but finding a funny way in, a funny approach. Sometimes it allows people to look at the things more closely and take them in.
I believe that so hugely. I mean, I wrote a sitcom over here about a female vicar when you still weren't allowed to have vicars in the Church of England who were women. And just by showing her, suddenly everybody thought, well, I can't imagine why I thought that was wrong in any way. And I think it can, give a lot of people extra confidence. It's also a very young industry, isn't it, on the whole, which brings me to Murray.
Yes.
Murray, tell me, how do you find, let's just say, what was tougher, playing this role or, let's say, Shylock and the Merchant of Venice? What's the biggest challenge?
No. They were both a snap. They were really easy because they're, first of all, they're so well written. But it's just there's an energy.
There are boring bits in the Merchant of Venice. There aren't any boring bits in this. But
did you see that performance? That was a good performance. But the thing that they both share is this enormous passion. But aside from that, I think I have no choice but to learn how to play a video game. And I suppose I'm going to have to ask my fellow cast members to introduce me to the easiest one to begin with, because I would like to have a club of 75 and older gamers. Wouldn't that be interesting?
Yeah, I love this idea. A friend of mine does this routine about, what songs are going to be played in old people's homes 40 years from now.
That's great.
You will have, bitches ain't shit will be, everyone will be really sentimentally dancing around. And I think that's true. I think all the old folk will be playing their Zelda games and everything. Jesse, you are so funny in the show. It must be just so much fun to be so brutal, as it were. I'm really interested in how it feels when you're in the show and you get a script. Is your first thought, do you do that thing of saying, how many lines have I got? And hooray, or you just relieved if you've got a light episode? What's your feeling?
Power of positivity. Come on. I love every line I get. I'm like, always combing the script for clues as to who my character is. And so whatever I get to do, I'm always thrilled to do it. And I show up on days when I'm not called. So whether or not they write me into the script, I'll be there.
No, it's true. That's, can I just say, that's not true.
It's 100% true. It's 100% true.
I can verify she has a perfect attendance record.
I'm the biggest fan of this show, and I've got an all access pass, so I get to show up and watch what it's like to see Rachel and Dana's scenes unfold and watch Danny work in scenes that I'm not in. And so that's always a joy for me. I love it. And I feel like I pick up lessons along the way, and it's the best set to get to come to. So I come all the time.
And you don't say, oh, I'd be great in this scene. I might as well.
No, never.
You're all like, Jesse should be in this scene.
I want to be
Rob
allowed
does
to
that.
keep
I
coming
feel
back.
like Rob does that. Rob's just like, I feel like I should be in this in a tank top. I should be in the scene and in a tank top, and that makes sense.
He's got very handsome.
Please don't encourage him.
I love that. I love that when people make themselves, more handsome in their own shows. Imani, I particularly love your kind of theme because of the romantic bit. I mean, that's one of the most sweet things. Did you suddenly realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm kind of, we're the heart of the show. Did that feel like a responsibility? Was that a gorgeous thing to do, to be both funny and, in love?
Yeah, I feel like that it's a responsibility that I accept with open arms. I love the romantic storyline that we have on the show, and that even though this is a half-hour comedy, we get so much heart, and I get to work with Ashley Birch, who's a phenomenal scene partner. So it's really nice to sort of have a really comedic scene, and then following scene is something really earnest and gentle and warm, and I love being able to portray that on the show.
Yeah, I mean, it's so crazy the mood swings and the different types of comedy. I would think it's brilliant. You just allowed yourself to go down all those different routes, not being afraid to have more serious bits, more romantic bits, more stupid bits.
Absolutely.
Talking about being a cast member, anybody answer this. What's the relationship to the script? Are you allowed to say, I think we can make that funnier? You can, is the script very locked, or is there flexibility?
There's complete flexibility, freedom, encouragement to improvise. Absolutely.
Is that right?
But we never say the scene needs to be funnier. The scene is solid. I mean,
Yeah.
these things are funny. They're really funny. And then we get given the opportunity to mess them up if we want.
The whole thing's
yeah,
a very
we-
collaborative process, which it like at every level, I think. It's like everyone's input is valued, and you feel
That's right.
that, and then that kind of creates the vibe on set, which is a good one.
And do you ever generally, as a group, do you ever wish you had an audience? Do you ever think this is so
Oh,
funny?
yeah.
I wish that.
Exact opposite reactions. No, absolutely not.
I mean,
No.
you eventually get an audience. But, do you ever? Because my experience of sitcom was so like almost preparing for a theatre show in the end, you know, in front of 300 people. But or is the group of you enough to make you satisfied with the laughs that you
This
get?
is enough.
This is the audience.
Yeah.
If we
I
can
wish
make
that
each
the
other
crew
laugh,
would turn
I think it
around
works. Yeah.
and not watch. Honestly, I wish that everyone had to wear blindfolds.
No, but our crew's a great audience too. I mean, our camera department is so invested in our show, and so it's lovely. Like when you see the camera operator's shoulders shaking, you're like, oh yeah, this is working. This is really
That's
funny.
great.
And then everyone at Village is very audible. Megan can laugh very loudly, and somehow it doesn't get picked up on our mics. So that's a dream. As someone who enjoys the audience participation, we definitely still have that positive feedback from the people we're working with on set.
But this is just bringing back so many memories of when I used to do that, because we used to change stuff after the crew watched it because they didn't laugh. Is that true too? You kind of think, oh, wait a minute, they were really enjoying this, and then it's gone quiet. Do you then change it after that?
Yeah, we try to, because comedy, you know, sometimes you just need to keep it fresh. You need to think of a different angle, or you need to be open to finding something that just happens to be funny to you in that moment, and you want to just go with it. So we really like we bring the actors into the writers' room as well, so that we have conversations about their characters and get input from them early. But we'll take it all the way down the line, because if it can be just that much funnier, then great.
Yeah. Well, no. And Jesse, you started. Are you writing now for the show? Is that right?
I was in the writers' room this season. Yeah, it was a blast, and I'm really grateful I got to do that.
Do you focus on your character when you're in there? Do you think?
No, I would be so embarrassed to do that. I felt like there were moments when my character showed up in conversation, and I'd be like, yes, whatever everyone else thinks, I'm just a fly on the wall. But then if we're talking about Sue, I've got like 100 pitches.
And none of the actors ever say, who wrote this shit? And then it's you.
No, never once. I don't write shit.
Okay. So Danny, you've had such a huge career. I noticed you get an "and" at the end. I love that. Your "and," Danny Pudi. Be honest, is this the best thing you've ever done?
Oh, Richard.
Say yes.
That's a really big question.
This panel, Danny, this panel
right here, this moment, easily, single-handedly the most important and powerful. No, I think it's like my kids, some days one of them shines more brightly than the other, but I love them all dearly. And I cherish all the memories. No, but this was like super special, and be able to create and collaborate, especially in this time period, it was such a gift for me. So I love this show, and I get to play a character that I've never played before, and all of it is just really, really fulfilling.
Well, look, but let's go back to Everlight for a second. You must have been really delighted when you read.
Yes.
You're in it. I hadn't spotted you as the evilest man in the world until that moment, except we were just. Was that a particular highlight? And was that you in the mask?
It was, and it was definitely a highlight. I remember receiving a number of calls saying, "Danny, they need you for a horn fitting, for a neck measurement, we need to change your eyes to completely black." And I was like, this is my moment. This is great. I've always wanted to be on a show that my kids can't watch, and this was so exciting for me. So I had to do prosthetics and sit in a chair for like 3 hours. And Brad is sort of the villain of the show, but we really get to, there it is. And there you see Snack time, Brad.
Yeah, it was so great. Even
It was
though
really fun.
I particularly loved that moment in an episode I just watched today where you whisper, where you mouth the word, "I own you." I thought, there's harassment of the very worst kind. And okay, look, here's the question everybody wants to ask. So, in terms of fun to work with, who in the cast is most like Chevy Chase?
It's all Charlotte. Charlotte's a monster.
Yeah, Charlotte's got a chubby
Impossible to be
vibe for
around.
sure.
And I embody it proudly.
Pass on that question. Pass.
Okay. Well, I really don't need to know that. So, but this is a kind of thing I'd love to ask all of you as I kind of look at this group of people, because again, going back to the power of positivity thing, I feel this is kind of an amazing period for women in comedy. I don't know if you feel that as well, but suddenly in the UK, there are so many more shows written by women, starring women, and you're all brilliant in it. Do you kind of feel that as a group of actresses? Do you feel this is our time? We're going to get better stuff. We're not going to be relegated to the minor roles. It's becoming less and less. The men are funny and the women are pretty.
Oh,
No.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, Murray, that wasn't a question for you.
Yeah. Typical man, just jumps in.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, I just disagree with the whole thing. I grew up watching I Love Lucy and the Carol Burnett show, and I feel like women have always been in a position of being the funniest people in the room, and it's just a continuation of that.
Okay,
Yeah.
that is very good. That's a very good way of looking at it too, I think. I mean, we just got so many great shows coming on in the UK, which are written by women and particularly kind of autobiographical. There's definitely been a shift here. But you're all, completely fantastic in it. Murray, I'm guessing you're the least familiar with the gaming world, but I'm really interested in this idea of, why there have been so few Oscar winners in a funny film. Do you know what I mean? That there's not great respect for the job of being funny. When you're, have you got a feeling, is there one which you think is harder? Do you feel?
No. I think it's not one is harder than the other, but that's historic, isn't it? I mean, Cary Grant was a great comedian, I think, and the man never won an Oscar.
Yeah.
And he finally got one. But the point is, no, it's for some reason it's not regarded very seriously. I mean, as a serious thing. If I had a choice, I would continue exactly doing what I'm doing, which is being as funny as this show allows me to be, which is pretty outrageous, and also then doing Lear. It's a great balance. But my question is,
I mean, Lear's a pretty funny play.
Hey, no, it's very funny. Yeah. That's how I play it. But I wonder, how they thought of me. Speaking of your description of people's idea of being funny as an Oscar winner, what made them think of me for this? Because it's a perfect thing. It fits perfectly. It's almost like an older Bottom, which I played and loved. What made them think of me? I'm grateful, but
I'm guessing you didn't. I'm guessing you didn't audition. Megan,
No.
what brought Murray to mind?
Well, no joke. We went to our casting director, Jeannie McCarthy, and we said, well, we have this character, C.W. Longbottom, and the ideal type would be like an F. Murray Abraham type. But so get us a list of people, put it together. And she came back and was like, what about F. Murray Abraham? And we were like,
yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, sure, if you can get him. And then there he was walking in the first day of shooting the pilot and just being game for everything. And so we're just as delighted as you are.
Oh, goody.
It's so lovely to see you all being so happy. I've actually got some questions from people that they've been sending in. So, Ashley, hey, Ash, what you're playing is the question. It says then, no, really, what are you playing right now?
Right now, I'm actually playing It Takes Two, which is a couch co-op game and I'm playing it with my partner, and it's very fun.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. I'm going to write that one down for me and Spike. Did you, Megan? There's a question here which says, who inspired Murray's character? Well, I mean, there wasn't someone like him at Ubisoft or whatever it was called, was there?
No. Although there are well, first of all, there's no one like Murray, so you're not going to find that anywhere. But also, his character was just based on this idea. I mean, there are writers on video games, obviously, but it was based on the George R.R. Martin. And basically, Rob had seen George at a lot of parties, because obviously Game of Thrones now very accepted in the television community, and would sort of see this author at these Emmy parties and things, kind of this idea of being a stranger in a strange land, all of a sudden finding yourself transplanted into a different business, a much younger people maybe that you're maybe not used to. So that was the inspiration behind CW Longbottom.
It's interesting. Now wait a second, now I've got another one here. Nini says, Danny, what was it like filming Breaking Brad after a whole season of being the villain?
Ooh, thank you, Nini. It was thrilling. Megan texted me and mentioned that they were looking at casting my brother, and she brought up Parvesh China, who's actually like my best friend, and we've worked together for many years, and it was so exciting. And to have this episode where I get to work with Parvesh and Snoop Dogg, it was like all my dreams were coming true. But also in terms of the character Brad, we see this sort of villainous, cold exterior in season 1. In season 2, we really get to sort of reveal these layers with him and meet his family. And that to me was just really exciting. And another example, like in our show, how Megan and the writers have done an incredible job of stretching it tonally. Like in that episode in particular, there's some really funny moments in front of a birthday cake. And then there's these like heartbreaking moments between brothers that as an actor, that was just really thrilling to play.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's what's so great these days is that people don't feel they have to be as formulaic and do the same thing every week, and the public is so happy to go along with that. Now, I was saying, I've got one more question here. Oh, Josh wants to know whether you do actually play video games on set and whether that interferes with your work. Any of you?
I remember
there's a photo from the pilot episode, I believe, where Ashley and I are playing the Switch together. But as far as other video games, I feel like we just spend a lot of time talking and hanging out for the same video games.
Well, it's good, and everyone will want to know that it's a kind of friendly and happy show. Can I ask you whether you have crashed up against any problems at any point? Megan, is there anything about the show that's been sort of more complicated, that's been tricky in any way in the devising of it or the making of it?
Really, the trickiest part was in this last year, the pandemic. It was shutting down this set, which, season 1 is always really difficult because you're establishing so many characters. You got to do all the casting. It's like, just taking this thing uphill, trying to make it work, figure out all the dynamics. Season 2 is supposed to be easy street. You got all the characters set up. You just get to have fun and games and mix them up. And then the pandemic hit and we all had to go home, and we spent months where we didn't know whether we were going to be back again. And even when we came back, we couldn't sit on set with each other like we usually do. Like Jessie wasn't joking. She would just hang out all the time, as would a lot of the other actors, talking to each other, building the dynamic. And the whole restrictions because of COVID really curtailed all that. And even something as simple as, I love coming up to the actors and whispering a joke in their ear that they can use in the next scene to keep things fresh.
If you do that, you might kill them. Exactly.
Yeah, can't do that. It better be a really good joke then. Make it worth it,
Yeah.
But that was the only hard part. That was the only hard part at all, really.
Yeah, well, look, I think it's genuinely such a great show. And just can you just tell me a tiny bit about the kind of relationship with the extraordinary bits of video that come in? Do you say, well, there should be a great big Viking ship charging in here? Or do you say to Ubisoft, just send us any old stuff?
We sort of think about where we are mood wise in the episode, and then they give us a bank of clips of cut scenes that we can pull from. And so, but we do try to match it kind of mood wise. If it's a triumphant moment, we want something exciting, somebody swinging a sword or something, as best we can.
Yeah, it's really good. Oh, I just watched, oh yes, it was this one. I watched that one, Charlotte, where you finally lift your fabulous shovel. I thought that was such a gorgeous bit of timing. You waited and waited and waited, and I thought, how's she going to react? And then up came the shovel. Did you feel like an epic heroine at that moment?
I did, and like, not to be corny, but I feel like when we shot that, I definitely had this moment of me, Charlotte, being like, wow, I have my dream job. Like, I'm doing everything that I ever hoped I might get to do as an actress. And so I don't know if that comes across in the scene, but I definitely feel like I lifted that shovel up, and inside my heart, I was like, ah!
I mean, I think one of the great achievements of the show is it does take a whole world that people probably won't have thought about. I don't know whether people even know that there is a world of people making it. I mean, can you tell me, I'm not familiar with this world, are the creators, are the Ians or the Ians, if you like it, are they famous? Will the people who watch the show actually know who invented the most famous game? Did they know?
It depends. It really, you have to be a dyed-in-the-wool gamer to know it. I think if you're in the industry, if you're invested in games, you'll know certain creative directors' names and that kind of thing. There are a few celebrity creative directors that we have, but for the most part, it's a pretty blind process. There's not a lot of celebrity in it, unless, you know, except when they put celebrities in games, except when Keanu Reeves is literally in a game. But apart from that, there's not a lot of that.
Well, look, you've completely opened the world up to that and made people, I think, hugely interested. It's the most engaged I've ever become. I'm now going to play Fortnite with my son rather than punishing him. Well, look, I think we're probably pulling ourselves to an end now here. It was so adorable, all of you turning up for this. You know, I really appreciate it just for the sake of being able to chat to you and for all the fans who'd want to see you. And also, you know, for Comic Relief and Red Nose Day, which I do think is, you know, a perfect expression of positivity myself. And I thank you. By being here, you've supported us. I'm really grateful to Apple TV Plus, who made it possible. If you want to follow Comic Relief ever, go to Comic Relief USA or comicrelief.org. And, you know, if you ever support us, you'll end up making kids very happy. And speaking of happiness, I think this show does make people extremely happy. And I'm now going to go and watch the other 13 episodes. So
yay!
Thank you very much, and hooray. And I've actually been wearing pajama bottoms all the way through this because it's 3:13 in the morning where I am. But you're the nicest people I've ever spoken to at this year.
Thanks for staying up.
Oh, Jesse,
Thank you.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
Lots of
Thanks,
love,
Richard.
and good luck to all of you.
Thank you, Richard.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard.
Goodbye.
Good to see you again.